Hello everyone, I am FY Hao or Yong Hao. So I would like to play around on producing the recently went viral video and animated bar chart video to show the data trend over time. With some open source data publicly available on the web, and then I choose the open source COVID data published by MOH Malaysia GitHub. And with the raw data on my hand, I'm searching easy library that is able to produce animated bar chart. Firstly, I was looking at some JavaScript library like HighChart, but the request source code looks so lengthy in order to fulfill my requirement. Then a thought came to my mind, why don't I use Python to implement the function I want? Because when I use Python to implement this function, I can run it in Jupyter Notebook at the same time, and the work I made can be easily shared to the world. So MOH Malaysia GitHub published its open source raw data on GitHub website that power CodeNow, which is the open data initiative launched by the Ministry of Health and the COVID-19 Immunization Task Force, collaborating with few developers and data scientists who volunteering their time, their service and intelligence to help us fight the virus. Okay guys, let us show the website that I introduced just now. So this is the github.com MOH Malaysia COVID-19 public, which is the repository published by our Health of Ministry Malaysia. And here is the raw data of the data, and here is some explanation of the data that you can see from here. Then the raw data of this GitHub is powering the CodeNow website by the MOH over here. And for this video, I will have a step-by-step run through on the Google Colab and how to create a animated bar chart by the Python. So next, okay, now come to the demo time. So now I come to the notebook, and then I create a new notebook from the Google Colab. So in this lab, we will use the bar chart race, which is a Python library to draw animated bar chart. We will prepare the data and transform it in the Panda data frame format, which can be accepted in the bar chart race library, and the complex animation will be handled by the library. The end result will be the animation video to MP4 format that can be displayed nicely in the lab and downloadable also, so that you would be also to publish it onto other video platform. So first step, we need to import the library. Control Enter. The first time you are showing the allocating, connecting, initializing, and connected for the Google Colab environment. And then now you will install the Python library. If you see the successfully installed bar chart race library, means that the library is already installed successfully. Now the next, we will create a new code block, and we will import the package. Okay, the first one will import bar chart race as PCR. Okay, then pandas as PD, import numpy as NP, import datetime, from datetime import date and time delta. Then Control Enter to run it to import the package. Then before that, we shall load the sample data set that provided by the PCR to ensure the PCR package is working. So we create a new block and then type like this: df equal to bcr.load dataset, then COVID-19 tutorial. Then let's us to see first few rows of the data. You can see this is the sample of the data. We can see that the first column is the dead column with the state, the country in the horizontal column, and then with the numerical data, I think it should be the new case data across the data, the table. So the next one we should create a new code block and to fit in the Panda data frame into BCR. So this is the Panda data frame object variable. So now let us run bcr.bar chart raise def parameter. We put in the def variable, and then the next one, the file name, we put in as none, because if you run the BCR in your local PC, you may need to put in a file name so that you can save the MP4 video into your local file system. But if you run in the Google Colab, you just need to put the none as a file name, and then you will display nicely the video bottom. So let Control Enter, then you are executing this line of code to generate the video, and let's wait for a few minutes or maybe a few seconds. The video will be generated below. Okay, because then there's a 4-second video generated, because maybe the data is just these few rows, so it's quite fast to generate the video. Okay, now the next we will do the actual thing that we need to do now. So next we will load the MOH Malaysia COVID data on the hospital beds. Okay, the next we will do the actual thing that we need to do today. So we will now load the real data from the MOH Malaysia COVID data on the GitHub. So now we go to the GitHub to review the data. So from this website we have the open data provided by the MOH Malaysia on the COVID-19. So here is a list of the CSV data with the explanation here. Then we can go to this folder, epidemic. Then here will show the explanation of each data. Now we are looking at the hospital. So here will be the explanation of the variables we were using today. So then let's look at the hospital.csv. Yes, we found it. Let's click it. So this is the data. So we have the date data, and then we have the state of the data and the base data. Then let's see, we want to show the base data over the time as a trend. So now we need to find the raw data of the CSV. So this will be the link, the raw.github-user-connect.com. This is a link we need to import into the Google Colab. Okay, how to import? Now we need to write some code to import it. So now we declare a variable and put in the CSV link. Then let us to use the Panda read_CSV function to import the URL. Control Enter and run, no error. Then let's see the first 10 rows of the data. So you can see that is the data, the date, state, base, and the data and the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 is as an index. let's compare to the original CSV of data. So look the same, except the first column of the index. So the next one, let us to create a new code block. We try to fit in the df into the bar chart race library. So in a df we put in the file name none, then let control enter. Oh, there's an error saying the boolean index did not match index array along dimension 0, dimension is 14, but corresponding boolean dimension is 12. Okay, actually the real answer is we don't want the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, the first column of index, because you see the symbol of data, there's no index, we only have the date column. So we can see the date column over the date here, and then we can see the list of the data, the country in horizontal column. So we can see the trend of the data over the country, over the date. Okay, now we need to find a way to remove the first index, and also we want to show the data trend of the beds only. Then we don't want all other data. And then we also want to move the state, the Johor, Kedah, Kelantan in horizontal columns. So how to do this? Okay, now the answer is we need to use a pivot table function in the Python. So let's type the Python pandas pivot table function. So by using this pivot table function, you will create a spreadsheet style pivot table as a data frame. So let's try. Let's create a new variable called output, and then pd.pivot table, and data we put in as df, and index we put in array of date. So we set the date as a new index, then comma, then we see columns of array of state. So we can move the state Johor, Kedah, Kelantan in the horizontal columns like this. And then we put in values at base. So we just need the value of base to display on each column of data. Then after that we need to see the symbol of the data. Okay, now we got the date in the first column of the data, and then we have the state in the horizontal columns here, and then all the data is displayed here nicely. Then now let us run the output, the bar chart. We input the output into the library output, and then control enter. So we start executing, mean that hopefully no error. Depend on the size of the data, it may take some times. Okay, in order to shorten the time of waiting, so I just put in the output.head 10. So I just using the first 10 of data to generate the bar chart. Control enter. Because if I need to display all the data, I need to wait around 10 minutes. Okay, now this is the first 10 of data will be generated. Okay, now let us do the second example. Now let us go back to the GitHub, and now let us go to here, and let's see the case_manager.csv. So we got the case here. I think this is a new case based on the new case or import case or recover case for the date. And we also have the cluster import, cluster religious, cluster community, cluster high risk, cluster education, cluster detention center, and cluster workplace. But the data is blank in year 2020, but somehow I found that the data is starting available on the 2021. So now we need to write a code to show the cluster category of the data and then showing over the cluster and over the date. And then we can see the data is something like it's showing like, for example, it's a 2 case in 2nd of January, then another day is 0 case. So actually we want to have the cumulative sum of the data, and then we can display the data trend over the time. Okay, now go back to the code. Now let us to create a new code block. So root MOH Malaysia all data on case cluster trends. Okay, now go back to the GitHub page, and then we find the raw data links of the data. Click on the raw data link, and this will be the links that we need to look into the Google Colab. Now we create a new variable and put in the variable here. Then we use the Panda to read the CSV into the data frame, run it, no error. So let's see the first 10 row of data. Let's look like, okay, down you can see the data is loaded like this, and then we can see the NAN is displayed on the cluster import data here. So the first step, we need to filter the data that when the cluster data is available. We don't want the first 2020 year data, we just want the 2021 data. Okay, now let's to filter the data by PD is NF, NA, then cluster input. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I want to filter out the data where the cluster input is not NA, so I'm using P dot is NA equal to false. Then I will able to filter the data. Okay, now let's see the first table of the data. Okay, you can see now the index jump to the 342, and then you can see the data starting from the 2021, January 1st, and then with the cluster data is over here. Okay, now we want to define an array of the columns that we want to display. So we just want the date, and starting by the cluster import, cluster religious, and other. Then we don't want the case new, case import, and case recover. So let us to define a variable whole array of the column we want to display. Cluster import, cluster religious, okay, cluster community, cluster high risk, cluster education. Okay, cluster detention center, and cluster workplace. Okay, I have to put it at last. Then now what I need to do is I want to perform the cumulative sum of the data, because you can see now it's 0 on the first date, and then followed by 2, and then followed by 0 again. I want to have the data like 0, 2, and this one will be 2, 2, 2, and 4, and 6. So how can I do this? How can I do the cumulative sum? Cumulative sum. So I need to use a Panda function called cumSum. Let's Google it. cumSum. Panda data from cumSum to return a cumulative sum over a data frame of series. So let's go back. So next is I will write a function to follow, iterate over the variable we just created, and we will not perform the cumSum of that column. Else we'll do every other column dfi the cumSum. Okay, now let's run. So you can see the data is already cumulative sum 0, 2, 2, 2, 2, 4, 6. Okay. The next we will. Okay, we can still see the date and the case new, case import, case recover still in the columns. We want to remove the case new, case import, case recover, and only show the course to show in our data frame. So next we can do like this. Okay, now you can see the columns we want to display is already here. And then the next thing we want to remove the first column. So we can do something like df.setIndex that place true. So we'll set the index as that date as the index. Let's see. So now the date will be the index. It's the first column of the data, and all the cluster category of the data is the right hand side of the table. And now it's fulfilled the requirement of the bar chart library. So now we need to import into the bar chart library. We create a new code block. Then we do the same thing, bcr.bar chart race df, double check, yes, df var name equal to none and contrender. Okay, sorry, because maybe the data is too big. Maybe I will run for first 10 row first. Okay, let's run. Let's wait for it. So it is executing. Okay, the data is generated, the video is generated. So we can see the cluster of the data is racing here. Okay, so in conclusion, in this video I have introduced the behind of the scenes of generating animated bar chart using open source raw data process by Python, Pandas, and bar chart arrays library with the step-by-step code. The full source code is available in the description.